Well, it's great to convene here. I'm looking forward to getting into the debut. Kind words, so thank you so much. Where are you located?
Right now I'm in Brampton, Ontario.
Okay, excellent. All right. So, are you originally from Canada?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry about what is happening between the countries. I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Nothing at all. But music is the antidote. Music is something that's going to help push us through. So it's great to catch up about it. And I want to begin our journey before we get into the album and your history in the music by asking you this. 5 years ago, this pandemic was absolutely changing everything for all of us, especially musicians. How did you make it through that time period in 2020? And how did it either influence this debut or the way that you operate as a musician now?
Writing this music was a big part of the pandemic. So I was in school at the time at the U of T program for jazz, and I this wasn't for school, this music, but I was just writing and going through the process of school at the time. So it definitely was music and singing and doing my thing with that kept me going and kept my spirits up.
So let's get into the album. A debut is a big deal. It's like your initial shout into the jazz world.
Mhm.
How did you decide that it now is the time and artistically stitch together the songs that you picked?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I was initially trying to get grants for the album, and I had this big plan with 14 songs, a huge ensemble, and I applied 3 times through the grant system, and it never went through. And I did feel like I was at the place in my career where I feel like as I'm reaching out to festivals or reaching out to others for opportunities, I feel like I need a recording on my belt. So I did a duo EP with Julian Bradley Combs in the fall of 2023. And it was a cheap studio opportunity, and the opportunity presented itself in the summer of 2024. And I'm like, you know what? Let's just go and do this. Let's make it a smaller project. And the songs I ended up choosing, I actually feel are more cohesive with the theme of kind words, where before it was just everything I wrote in one project. So
Yeah.
it kind of worked itself out.
How did you land on the musicians? That's another key element to this. What was kind of the history and how did you ultimately decide the musicians that would be on this project?
So Kay Murphy, we've been playing together since U of T. We would play duos together, and Kay has always been a part of my music journey. My first call as a trumpet player, so that was natural and worked out with their schedule. Chris Adriance, I play with him a lot on the Toronto jazz scene as well, so it was natural and easy to ask him. Same thing with Reuven Griner. Reuven Griner, he's actually my partner, and it's funny because I actually had someone else that was going to play, Jen Lowe, but she was away on a cruise during that time, so it became a very fitting choice to actually have him on the music artistically. And then Julian, I play with him a lot as well. So all of these people have a lot of experience playing my music on gigs. So that was easy in terms of just the logistics and whether or not we were going to rehearse a lot. They already knew the music, so it became easy for that part of the process. And it was the first time actually putting all of those individuals together in a room too.
So, what are you hoping the listener gets from this initial album?
I'm hoping they can feel maybe a sense of calmness, healing. Like I hope the lyrics resonate with the listeners as well, and I hope that musically, that they kind of feel the organic interaction that happened in the moment. A lot of it was there were some things that were prearranged and written out, but a lot of it is just very improvised, very much like a conversation. If we played that music for you on another show, it will, I think, be completely different in terms of how we communicate with one another. And so I hope they can kind of feel the natural flow that was happening in the studio and resonate with that and resonate with the themes of the songs.
So, how did this journey into the music begin? Take me to the beginnings. How did you initially get enamored with music, and how did jazz kind of become your world?
Yeah, it's interesting. So, I did piano since I was a kid, and I started singing when I was 12. And my vocal coach at the time was trying to get me to be interested in lifting a scat solo by Ella. But I'm like, oh, I want to sing Rihanna. I want to sing Beyonce. So I didn't expect to fall in love with jazz. That was never a part of my initial journey, especially with singing. I fell into the choral realm. But then when I was picking between universities for music, it just felt natural to pick jazz over classical music. And U of T wasn't my first choice, but I ended up picking that institution to go to. And then I just slowly started to fall more in love with the music, and it just fit very well.
So, you mentioned Ella. Who are some other jazz singers, musicians that really were influential in you finding your voice and loving this art?
Love that question. Nancy Wilson,
Yeah.
I think lifting her, just the way she presents melodies and also just technique wise, I feel like listening to her and lifting her technique really helped me find my voice in a technique way, but also just in a personal and abstract kind of way. I love Cyril May. I love the way she scats. I love her phrasing and the way she approaches jazz improvisation. I very much adore. Jasmia Horn, I adore for her spirituality as well and how she integrates that into her music. So that inspired me in that way.
What was one of the first live jazz shows you saw that was huge in your development, your concept of live performance, or made you want to get up there on stage?
That's a great question because there's so many. I think honestly, just going to the gigs of my peers at the time of U of T. Yeah, like I would go to the Rex and watch my friends perform, or people that were older than me. I would watch them perform, and I would always looked up to the musicians that were around me and were doing the thing of performing. So there wasn't one specific show that made me want to do it. I kind of always just had that instinct of I want to be up there,
Yeah.
regardless of what show it is. But seeing that it was possible to perform, even with my professors, seeing that you can teach and you can compose and you can record and you can perform and go on tours and do everything, that was very inspiring for me.
So the one thing about having this dream of being a musician is that you have this conception of the way it's going to be, this kind of ideological idea of how a musician is going to live their lives and how this is going to work out. What has been the biggest difference between the dream that you always had and actually being there in the middle of it and doing it now?
Yeah, I think a big difference is being able to see that it's not like a cookie cutter thing.
Yeah.
I feel growing up, they tell you, oh, if you're either Ariana Grande or you're just teaching music in a school, and that was my plan. I figured, okay, well, I love music. Let's just go teach in a high school and get a cozy job. But I think that was a big thing, like seeing that I can do all of the things that I like and do it professionally, and it doesn't have to be through a label. It doesn't have to be so in the spotlight. Like there's ways to be successful at it and have an impact and do what you love, and make a living without just it being one thing or the other.
So this next question's a two-part. What was one of the stages that you always wished that you would play on and you've actually performed? And what is the ultimate stage that you want to get to?
Ooh, probably the Jazz Bistro in Toronto.
Yeah.
I've had the opportunity to perform there a few years ago, and that was that was great. It happened very naturally, very organically, and that was special for me because I looked up to the people that were playing there, and it's one of the more um, I would say I don't want to use the word prestigious, but it's up there in Toronto in terms of the jazz clubs. A stage I would love to play on is probably. Probably like more like a theater, whether it's Roy Thompson Hall in Toronto or Carnegie Hall. Like that would be the ultimate thing to have that opportunity.
So I learned some years ago that Massey Hall show with Bird and Dizzy and the big one, it wasn't well populated. It wasn't full. There was a big boxing match that night,
Hmm.
and everybody was at home watching it. And it's wild to think that's one of the most seminal shows ever in the history of jazz. And it was sparsely populated because of a boxing match. I always think about that when I think about Toronto and kind of the lore of jazz. It was interesting. What is it that gets you up every day, that motivates you to evolve as a musician, to promote this debut and to pursue this career? What is that for you every day?
My passion for it, and also I believe in the music I'm writing. I'm very over the pandemic, I became more spiritual and more believing in the idea that everything we create, whether you're a writer, composer, or visual artist, that comes from a vessel that's much higher than us. And so actually like the detachment from the music, like I love the music of course and I feel the connection to it, but I've also detached myself from it and I'm reminding myself that I'm like promoting this and going through the motions of trying to share this with people for something that's bigger than me and also for my inner child that would be so happy to see that this is happening.
So the one thing during the pandemic that people were afraid of, especially for people that were in school at that time and younger musicians that were starting to get into the craft, was that they may fall away because it's expensive to be in big cities. There was an uncertainty. There was no live music. There was so much going on. But now when you look back at that time and even to now in 2025, how strong is the jazz community in your estimation?
I feel like it's very strong. It's very vibrant. It's been really nice at seeing that different venues, I think, are starting to incorporate live music. I've noticed that. And I feel like it was more motivation to make it stronger, make it more apparent, and also stick together as musicians as well, and also develop a stronger online community as well. I'm seeing so many accounts from venues and Jazz in Toronto, that institution or that company, they're starting to get a huge following, and I think that's doing a really good thing for the jazz community and just Toronto as well.
So why do you love this music we call jazz?
I feel like growing up and singing music, and I still kind of feel this way where I don't feel like I'm specifically like just in one genre and that's my thing and I'm just going to do that thing for the rest of my life. I found with jazz and the improvisation aspect of it that it really allows for personal expression. And there's something so unique about it. The fact that you can go to a show and yes, you'll hear those songs on the record or you'll hear them play another show again. And maybe there will be some similarities musically, but you won't hear that again. Like that's a very special moment to be a part of. And also just if you switch the bass player or if you switch the trumpet player, can become a whole different conversation or a whole different energy amongst the band. So I think that's so unique and so special to jazz. And I'm not saying that other styles of music can be rigid, but for me personally, in the way I perform it, it helps me feel less rigid or that I have to stick to this one line and do it perfectly every single time in the same way.
So if we get off this call, time machine pulls up in front of your house, you can go back in the history of jazz and see one show live. Where are you going to go?
Oh, that's really tricky. Um,
You could do a few.
a few?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I would go and see Alice Coltrane.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd go and see that. I would go see Ella Fitzgerald performing with Louis. I
yeah.
think that would be very magical. And yeah.
That's wonderful. So let me ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, fans, everyone that you get on the bandstand with, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I am very versatile. I think I am very confident, and I think I'm a very strong presence in the music world. I haven't actually really thought about that. I'm kind of thinking on the spot here,
Yeah.
but I feel like I am someone who, um, just through like at least my composing skills, I can create conversations that maybe like musically or thematically are new and maybe reflective and maybe helpful or inspiring. Like have another passion in life where it is helping people and um, just being there for people or giving advice. Even with my students, I catch myself just going into life lessons. So I feel like that's something that I'm naturally integrating musically. So yeah, I'm still kind of pinpointing that
Yeah.
role and finding it. But I feel like with where I am right now, that's kind of where I'm at.
I dig it. So Kind Words comes out on July 18th. Are there big plans for the release day? Is that a big deal?
For the release day, the big plan is to post about it, but there
Yeah.
will be a show on August 8th at the
Okay.
Canada Music Center in Toronto. We'll have a release show on that day.
What's the best way for people to pick this album up that will support you the most or find out about any other subsequent shows after August 8th? How do they do that?
So I have my website, raquelmarina.com. I have Instagram, Raquel Marina, but 3 A's at the end. And then there's Bandcamp as well, so they can find the music there.
Okay. I will put all these links in the show notes. Again, Raquel, thank you so much for sending the music over. I love it. I can't wait to put it on the show. It's been great to get to know you. Thank you so much for your story.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity.
Kansas City musicians, filmmakers, and creatives, this is your invitation. Don't miss Sound to Screen, a one-day music and film workshop on July 19th, 2025 at UMKC's Katz Hall from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Learn how to take your song from concept to screen, bring your instruments, connect with local artists, and enjoy a special masterclass with members of Kansas City's own The Freedom Affair. Spots are limited. RSVP now at soundtoscreen.kccreativecity.com or just search for Sound to Screen on Facebook events.